Thanks so much for joining us for another edition of our open mic program. And we do have with us right now Congressman French Hill with the 2nd Congressional District here in Arkansas. And Congressman, thanks so much for taking time and talking with us.
Bob, thanks for the invitation. Great to be with you.
Well, we've had a lot of activity going on. You're back to work, which you've been back to work for a while, but the National Defense Authorization Act and also the Great American Outdoors Act. Let's talk about those.
Yeah, these are two good bills this week that are passing the Congress. They will go to President Trump ultimately, and I think President Trump will, in my view, sign them. First, the defense bill. Every year we pass a defense authorization bill. This is the policy for the Pentagon. This is the pay raise for men and women in uniform. This is the strategic initiatives to make sure America stays safe and strong. And in this bill, we've got the Indo-Pacific Reassurance Initiative, where we work with our allies around India and Southeast Asia to make sure that we can counter Chinese aggression in the region. This has, as I say, a pay raise for our troops. This has funding for the C-130 program and modernization out at Little Rock Air Force Base. And this bill is typically bipartisan, and it was this year. Last year, Speaker Pelosi caused it to not be bipartisan, but this year it stayed bipartisan, and it passed the Senate this afternoon, their version, with over 80 votes. So I think it'll become law. And then we have the Great Outdoors Act, which helps provide capital maintenance for all of our national parks, our national forests, major sites like the Buffalo National River, or Blanchard Springs Caverns and Mountain View, Hot Springs National Park. These all have deferred maintenance for those facilities that our American tourists are loving our parks to death. Sometimes we wear out these facilities. This bill will help support that capital maintenance of those beautiful places.
And now there's something else that, we're talking about school districts in Arkansas. The governor set a date of August 24th, and you went in with the HELP Act that's going to actually assist local school districts as they work to resume with students in learning. Talk about a little bit about this act, because this is very important, not only for America, but definitely for Arkansas.
Yeah, the last 2 months I've been talking to teachers, school superintendents, our governor, our educators all over the district. And the HELP Act is to help our principals and our teachers make sure they have what they need for the classroom. In the CARES Act, we got over $120 million to K through 12 schools in Arkansas to help them fight the coronavirus and get ready for both distance learning and in classroom. But this bill will help do those final things that we need as we go to back to class this fall, or supports those families that are still needed to do virtual learning, online learning with hotspots and other technology that are critical. So the bottom line is we want our kids back in school safely and sensibly, because that's what the American Council on Pediatrics says is essential for their intellectual health, their behavioral health, and their family health.
It's something we need to speak about that just for a moment. President Trump has talked about that, and there's been some pushback in different parts of the country saying children need to be safe going to school. But then we are hearing from many of the other professionals saying that it's important for kids to have that social interaction because their parents may work. There's a lot of isolation going on there. Talk to that for a moment.
Well, we do want kids safe, and we want our teachers safe. We want to make sure they have a classroom and a cafeteria and a bus plan and a hallway plan that includes healthy, safe environments for our families. But I talked to the superintendent in Faulkner County, Conway, the other day, the Conway Public Schools, and 70% of parents in a survey there said they want their kids back in-classroom education. The American Pediatrics Association says that it's better for food, better for mental health, better for things like kids that have learning disabilities, that have dyslexia, that need special physical therapy or occupational therapy, PT or OT. That is all provided and helped through that school system. Nutrition, meals, and the socialization you point out, so important for particularly K through 8th grade. So we want to do it safely. And we also want to make sure our families, particularly in our rural counties, that don't have high-speed broadband. It's unfair to them. How do they do their homework? How do they talk to their teacher if they don't have access to broadband? So we want to make sure we have technology available for them. And I'd say that's going to be one of the biggest changes that comes out of the pandemic, Bob. Better telehealth for Arkansans and better teleeducation for Arkansans, where we'd all fight to get what we need for broadband across our country, just like we wanted electricity back in the 1930s.
That is true, and that's what they say. I mean, this is something it's very important to connect for the students. But, sometimes on the national scene, I'm a broadcaster. You hear people's high pitch in different parts of the country talking about feel like they don't have internet in some of those parts of the city. Well, we have the same thing. It might be rural Arkansas and parts of different counties that just don't have the access. And that's something that's so important for us to realize. This is something it's everyone is affected by keeping children at home. That's just making sure they have the right tools.
Yeah, kids. I mean, parents, two parents that are working that need to make income. I mean, they don't have the ability to teach their kids at home. They need their kids in school. And there are kids in urban counties or rural counties. They don't have the affordability for broad. So you have an access issue. And I think Mike Preston, the head of the Economic Development Commission in Little Rock, says about 200,000 families in Arkansas don't have access, meaning at any price. They just don't have connectability. But then we have our families and our teachers that don't have the ability to pay for high-speed broadband. So this is a real challenge. Another reason why in-school kids need to be done safely and sensibly so that we can protect our teachers and protect our kids, but get them back into a good learning environment.
So that's the HELP Act, and that's something that you've introduced. And what are we going to see with this act? Where does it go now?
Well, it's going into the debate on the next coronavirus legislation that the Senate and the House are working on. And I hope it'll be a guide for how we can do programming to help our schools as Congress considers this next big coronavirus bill.
Well, Congressman, I appreciate you taking time and talking with us. It is important for folks to know, especially the National Defense Authorization, Great American Outdoors Act, which we've talked about, and that helps our federal parks that are all over Arkansas, as well as the HELP Act. And we appreciate you taking time and talking with us.
You bet. Love being with you. Thanks, Bob.